Good evening, folks. I'm Al Huey, along with my partner, Robert Eierman. Welcome to KZGN's Ridgecrest Talk, the Thursday night edition. Our special guest again tonight is the one and only Mr. Don Zdeba, Indian Wells Valley
Thanks
Water
again.
District. Okay, we're going to talk about a couple things tonight.
Okay.
We want to talk about an update on how we're doing on cutting back and conserving water, because I think we're still under a requirement for 36% reduction, correct?
That's correct.
And then later in the show, we'd like to talk a little bit about these smart meters that were discussed at the last board meeting.
Okay.
Okay? So how are we doing with water conservation?
Well, I don't have the October numbers yet. I'll have those by Monday probably. But overall, from June through September, we're at 25%. We've gone down month by month. June, you might remember, was a relatively cool month comparatively. So we actually did well. We did 34%.
Wow.
But since then, July we did 27%, August 20%, and September 19%, which, as you might expect, because as the summer heats up, more water is used for cooling sort of thing. So
Now, are they acknowledging the fact that, you know, the majority of the people use evaporative cooling here in the desert?
they understand that. I've made that point to them on at least 3 occasions, a couple times in letters to the state, but in other districts have as well. I'm aware Reading, Water District in Reading also is making a case for coolers, as are some of the other districts. But I think for this year at least, we're stuck with that 36%. I suspect what's going on is the fact that there are somewhere near 405 water districts that report to the State Water Resources Control Board, and I'm pretty sure that because of the diverse geography, climates, and all that, probably all 405 districts could maybe make a case for some unique circumstance within their district. So my impression is that the State Water Resources Control Board listens, they will acknowledge, but it'd be too much of a task to start giving exceptions for this district and that district for this issue, that issue. So to answer your question,
That doesn't sound right, but go ahead.
well, that's my impression. I mean, they
Yeah.
haven't told me, but they have, in the meeting I had with them back in July when we didn't make our 36% conservation target the first month. Again, I made that case, presented them with data, and they acknowledged the data, and they said, yes, we understand it, but we're still staying with 36%. I think we have an opportunity next year when this goes through February 2016. So, and I know the state's working on it now, revising what conservation mandates will be in place for next year. And they are looking at different things. The Association of California Water Agencies, ACWA, has been engaged in conversation with them. They're looking at evapotranspiration rates as a factor. Another thing they're looking at, which is kind of interesting, but I'm not sure how it would work out for us, is grouping water districts together in a region and keeping the same conservation targets, but saying if that region makes their goal, then everybody's okay. But if the region doesn't make it, then
It doesn't sound like very.
well,
That's going to play out too
well.
well.
For us, I don't think that's
Sounds like group grading in school.
Yeah.
It might work out well for large metropolitan areas because you've probably seen there are some districts that are making or exceeding their target. So if you take the overall average in an area, there are some areas that probably would benefit from something like that. But again, for us, I don't see it benefiting us at all. So hopefully it doesn't go in that direction because I think we'll be out by ourselves here.
Did you hear any of the information that was reported that they had some degree of evidence that the conservation numbers for particular districts were assigned based upon whether they're liberal or
Politics?
conservative? Yeah, politics, yes.
I did see that, and that was an interesting article, whether it was a Republican area or a Democratic area. Yeah, and
Right.
the statistics were quite alarming when you look at that.
Right, and it may be coincidental, or it could be skullduggery.
Nonetheless, it's very interesting, and
Yes.
I did read that article, and obviously we're tend to be a Republican type of leaning area.
Well,
so,
a well-known one.
yes, and 36% is our goal. So yeah,
Yeah, right.
and interesting, Felicia Marcus, the state board president, whoever, declined comment on that. So.
Yes. No, and by February, we'll be heavily into whatever El Nino we're going to have. And obviously, 1 year doesn't end a drought,
Right.
but it could have, depending on how much the state gets, or parts of the state get, it could be a significant influence, couldn't it, on next year's targets?
Possibly, and what we would hope for is that not only is it a wet year, but snowpack, as you know.
Yeah,
is-
that's
Yes,
what counts. is
absolutely.
snowpack.
Snowpack in the north, because that's where a lot of the water in Southern California comes from, snowpack in the north. So having, a warm El Nino with just rain will help some, but the big help would obviously be, of course, snowpack in the south.
Have you, and I'm being facetious, have you invited the Department of Water Resources to come down to see the blooming desert and how much we here are not in a drought?
Well, they were actually here,
Last Friday.
last Friday, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they were here for that public meeting, so.
Well, on
I'm
the
sure they got
on
it.
the drive, they should have noticed
I would hope so, yeah.
that
The thing about our conservation goal too is, we're into October and already getting the cooler weather, so people are going to be watering their lawns less. And
Yes.
they're going to be using their coolers less. I know mine has been on
Absolutely.
for a couple weeks now, so water use for landscape irrigation and for cooling is going to decrease significantly. So your only opportunity to reduce 36% is going to be your indoor use, pretty much. So
yes.
So, to recap real quick, we're somewhere in the mid-20s approximately?
we're at 25%.
Okay.
which
Have we been
which I think
fined
is
yet?
terrific.
There are no fines, and I think, like you were saying, 25%, when you consider, I know the state doesn't consider it, but when
Right.
you consider the 20% that we achieved from 2007 to 2013, 14,
Yes.
and then another 25% on top of that, I think that's pretty
I think it's
significant.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that the citizenry has responded very well.
Yes, and I have not had any contact with the state since we issued the conservation order, and we are required to submit a report by the 15th of the month. I submitted one in September and October. I've submitted those reports that state.
We have to cut you off
Yeah,
right
we-
there.
okay.
We got to go
Take
to
our
break,
break.
I understand.
as usual.
Okay.
We'll be back right after these words. And welcome back to segment 2 of Ridgecrest Talk, the Thursday evening edition. I'm Robert Eierman, along with my fellow host, Al Huey. And this evening we have the general manager of the Indian Wells Valley Water District, Mr. Don Zdeba, practically our most popular guest.
Yeah.
And before we get into this segment, I just want to again mention that here on the Thursday evening edition of Ridgecrest Talk, we're hard on the issues and soft on the people. In other words, it all has to do with the topic, and nothing's personal here.
Right.
And I have to say, if we keep this up, I'm going to have to add you to my Christmas card list.
Yes, true.
Okay, as I said in the beginning of the show, we wanted to talk about two things mainly: the water conservation efforts here in our community, and the smart meters, which were discussed and voted upon at the last water board meeting. Now, I remember hearing that even before this was being discussed, that the district was looking into smart meters because the ones they had company went belly up and they had to get new ones.
That's pretty much correct. We had what's called an AMR system, automated meter reading system, which is, of course, the drive-by system. You drive by with a laptop, you can pick up the readings as you're driving down the street. That system had the capability of allowing us to generate reports. And when I first came onto the district in 2012, I was exposed to that system, and it was really beneficial because you get customers that will get a bill and they'll say, well, this bill doesn't make sense to me, it looks a little high. They would come in and question it. We could run a report for them. And oftentimes we'd show them that report, and for example, it might show continuous use over 24 hours, just maybe a small amount, which would indicate you've got a leak. Yeah.
Yes.
So we would show them the report and say, or give them the report and just say, you might want to check your landscaping or check toilets, maybe your toilet's running. And they're very helpful. So, and to your point, I think about 2.5 years ago or so, we started seeing a decline in service from the company that supplied that system. And in fact, they ended up filing for bankruptcy. We had issues with, sending units in, getting them repaired, getting back in a timely manner. And we just made the decision we have to, for the sake of, our resources that we have available, pull those units and go back to manual reading so we can make sure that, we have the meters working and we're getting accurate readings. So for the last...
Now, those were add-on to
They
the
were
analog.
add-ons, yeah, right. Mhm.
You didn't actually pull the analogs when those were installed.
There's a little, for lack of a better term, a little suction cup or something you put onto the meter, and that gives the signal that you pick
Okay.
up. So
And
we
I,
just pull those
in
off.
regards to that, so if a customer, we heard, or at least I heard from customers after these particular meters went in, that they got a bill for an exorbitant amount, cost-wise and water usage-wise, and they disputed it and settled with the water district. Okay, well, we'll half the bill or something like that. But did the water district, do you know, in those cases, go out, since the analog meter was still there, check the analog against this smart meter?
I think what you're referring to happened before I got there, so I can't say what action specifically took place, but we do have that ability to go out and check the totalizer, if you will, that gives you the actual
Right.
numerical reading, and we do that. When we get readings that look false, if we're doing the manual reading, and it's easy sometimes for the guys to get a number wrong.
Sure,
That may happen.
sure.
So we flag those, and we'll go out and do a reread.
So are these proposed smart meters that are going to be installed, will they be add-on to the analog, or are they going to be removing the analog?
You'll still have the totalizer ability, yeah.
Okay. So if there is a
So
dispute,
customer can read their own meter, absolutely. Plus, with the AMI system, automated metering infrastructure, they can log on to their computer and get the readings off the computer. It's a really great tool for us and for the customer. With this conservation efforts going on, we really are lacking being able to help our customers as much as we would like. As I said, going back to the AMR system that we had, being able to run those reports, I remember one incident shortly after to the district that a lady was getting high bills, and she kept saying these bills can't be right, the readings can't be right. We would go reread the meter, and the readings were right. And she said, I've looked all over my yard, and I can't find anything. Myself and one of the field services people went over to her house, and she had a row of trees along one boundary of her house, leaves and needles piled up from probably several seasons that were just there. So we took a rod and went probing around. We got near one area, and the rod just went down into the ground, and sure enough, there was a leak.
Yes.
That you couldn't see because the leaves and the needles were piled up there.
So these new meters, or the new AMI system, this is an add-on. It's not a replacement of the meter.
No, the meters itself will stay there. It's just it's a different register that goes on top.
Okay.
And as I said, to me, the customers will have much more ability to check their water use on pretty much real time. We'll have a better ability to help them should they have a question on their bill. And as you said, we proposed this pilot test probably almost 2 years ago now, when we first started having problems with Datamatic, the supplier for the other system. We got delayed a little bit, probably several months, because of the county's land use plan, the rezoning. They wanted to make sure all the zoning changes were done before they would approve tower locations. We have to have collector sites.
Okay, so to put in the AMI system, was this a district decision, or was this something that was forced upon you?
Initially, it was a district decision, but it has since become part of the conservation order that we were issued, and I believe it was August 1st from the State Water Resources Control Board in response to the fact that we are not meeting our conservation goal. They issued
Okay.
that conservation order with 10 specific actions, and one of those was to fully implement an automated metering infrastructure system.
Okay.
And so
And those reports go to them on a monthly basis?
the report that I was referring to on a monthly basis is just an update on those 10 action items. What they requested of us as far as the AMI system, initially when the draft order was published and we received that for comment, the draft order said that we had to have the system installed by November 1st,
Right,
which is next
which
week.
is
Impossible.
unreasonable.
Which is impossible, and I
Yes.
responded as such. When the final order came out, all they said was, we want to have you fully deploy the system, give us a budget and a schedule, which
Okay.
we've done, but we've made them aware. Of course, it's subject to change, obviously, as time goes on. So every month, we're reporting to the state our progress.
Okay.
Well, we're going to have to take another break right
Okay.
now, and we'll continue to talk about this. And just so you know, we already have smart meters on your electric and gas meters with opt-out options. But we'll talk about that when we come back right here on Ridgecrest Talk. Join us. Welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk. Again, I'm Al Huey along with Robert Eierman and our guest, Mr. Don Zdeba from the Water District, and we're talking about smart meters. As I said before we went to break, these smart meters now, starting back in around 2009 or so, and then starting to be implemented around 2011, started with electric meters, and then gas meters followed quickly behind, and now water meters, but we actually had them on our water lines before this, like we said, but the company that was providing that went out of business, so we had to find somebody else. So right now then, how does the water district determine a customer's monthly water usage? Do they
By
have
manual
to drive
reading.
by?
By manual reading. One of our field service staff walks, lifts up the lid,
Okay.
enters it into the little handheld.
And obviously, there's a cost there involved with man
Sure.
hours and
Sure.
vehicle expenses and maintenance and all that.
Correct.
So that will be a significant reduction, I think, in expense-wise if these meters are installed. Because then it's just done over the airwaves, right?
It will eliminate that particular activity, but allow us to focus more on conservation activities. Right now, we have one person dedicated pretty much on a temporary basis because these mandates and the governor's order are effective June through February of next year. So, you know, to allow us to focus on conservation and try and reach that 36% goal, we allocated one person to doing that job.
Okay, I just have some general questions here real quick, if you can hit them real quick. What is the purpose of the smart meter then?
Purpose of the smart meter is to allow us to be more efficient in collecting that information and also improve the accuracy and also allow our customers as well as us to better manage our water use.
Analog meters weren't accurate enough?
Well, but
Well,
who's
you've
going to
got-
go out and
you've got
read their water meter every day?
Well, I don't,
Well, in terms of
they said that the data is only dumped once a day, right?
Yes.
So.
But before you had data every month.
Okay.
Now you have
okay.
data every day that not only the water district can access, but the customer can
and
access.
I believe you can go in if you need to and you know, get information. You don't have to wait for that 24 hours. I believe we're able to go in there at any given time and look at the data.
Now, what is the cost to the district to install these?
The cost to put the AMI system in will be probably a little over $3.5 million.
And what will be
Wow.
the cost to the customers?
There'll be no additional cost on the bill. I mean, we've got money in reserve for capital projects, and that's what that money will be coming from. There's no loan involved.
Nobody will
either.
see their bill go up because of these
No.
smart meters.
No.
And you already answered this, whether or not the analog meter was going to remain, and you said it was.
That ability, yes.
And the benefits of the smart meter we've already discussed. You say it's more accurate and everything. And what kind of data will be collected by these smart meters
Just
that'll be transmitted over the air?
just water flow through the meter. at
But
any
will,
given time.
names, addresses, emails, anything like that?
Oh, no. No, what we're
It'll just be-
doing, what you're collecting is flow data through the meter with time. So again, going back to what I mentioned with the AMR system, if the customer questions a bill, we can print a report that will go hour by hour. We can go a day. I think we can go back, I think, for a week or whatever, scale the time, and just show when that water use is. There are issues that come up with sometimes when a storm comes through, or electrical outage, irrigation timers, people's timers will default or reset.
Yes.
And people may not be aware of it. And again, we get people questioning, what's going on with my bill here? It doesn't look right. When you print that report, and I've seen these before because, as I said, when I first got to the district, we had that ability. It'll show a sprinklers coming on at maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and people didn't have it set for that. And they'll
Right.
look
Yes.
at that,
But the
and we'll show
storm
them.
resets
We'll show
it.
them. Well, you've got water use at 1 o'clock in the morning. Does that make sense to you? And they go, no. I don't know what that is.
Or even more critical, they're coming on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is during
Right.
the summer, and,
Yeah.
and they
Possibly,
don't want
yeah.
that.
Possibly, yes.
And a question that has come up repeatedly is, with the AMI, does the district have any ability to limit or shut off anybody's water?
Not with the system, no. Physically, we can, sure.
Of course,
We can always go off and shut the water off.
with the system, because there's
No.
been a lot of
No.
people fearing that.
No.
Okay.
And
And the data that's being reported again, it's just going to be water meter such and such number. This is what the,
well, we'll know the address because the meter's assigned to an address, and it'll show the flow going through that meter. But we don't know. We don't.
you know that, but will the third party, because this information is not going directly to the district, it's going to this third party, right?
No.
Oh, it's going directly to the district?
Oh, that's even better.
Oh, because I was under the understanding that,
No, it's not going through a third party. No. The district is erecting collector sites, towers at collector sites. There'll be our locations submitting customer information to our central collector, which will be at the district, and no third party has that information.
Okay. A question
And we
that I
don't
wanted to
care.
ask.
We don't care if somebody's taking a shower at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever. I mean,
Right.
all we're looking at is water going through the meter, not what they're
Right.
using it for.
Do you know why the staff recommended no opt-out?
A couple reasons. One, obviously, being the mandate from the state to fully deploy a system, which fully deploy means fully deploy the system. And also, just with the conservation targets we have, we are really hamstrung by not having the ability to help our customers understand where the water's going or when the water's coming on.
but both the local other utilities, the gas and electric companies, allow for opt-outs of these smart meters. The PUC in 2012, the California Public Utilities Commission, handed down a ruling saying that opt-out meters opt-out for these smart meters need to be made available. And the PUC covers, our water district unfortunately isn't one of them, but they cover
Right.
some 128 water districts. And so I guess a question that's being asked is why there's no opt-out, given that the percentage I looked up for PG&E Electric, that they only have a 0.3% opt-out.
It's a very minor number.
Yeah, why that
Well,
would
I've-
be such a big
I've
deal.
inquired through Aqua, because there are other districts that have AMI systems, several in California, and I've inquired and asked their experience with it. None of them offer opt-out. I've got a response from a Sacramento attorney that said that there's no violation of constitutional rights. I don't understand what people's objection is to being able to better monitor their water use, especially in this time of
And
drought and conservation.
unfortunately, we're out of time again. It always goes so quick. We'll have to have you back another time.
All right.
Thanks again, Don.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate all the
Appreciate you
information.
coming by.
Very welcome.
Join
Join
us
us-
next week, right here, Thursday night. Night, folks.